Hey guys, Jonathan Godfrey, On-Site Wastewater Professionals. I'm here in Wilson, North Carolina today, and I'm with Stacy Creech, Creech's Plumbing, and Wilson Day with Caterpillar, and you're out of the Gregory Pool.
Correct.
Caterpillar. We're going to talk equipment today.
Sounds good.
All right. So the first concept I want to talk about is equipment replacement. Now, we have folks running equipment until the wheels fall off is one concept, but there's maybe a little bit smarter way to do this. And Wilson, maybe we'll pick on you and look to the rental programs at these big companies like Caterpillar and Gregory Pool. How long do you typically keep equipment in your rental program before you sell it off? Is there?
Sure. Yeah, and it varies by size and model, but
Sure.
specific to these is, mini excavator, skid steer line. We're looking, 3,000 to 4,000 hour range, and few years, and getting those out and selling them on the market.
So 3,000 hours, if we kind of had that as a baseline, where equipment will move out, and that, Stacy, might equate to 4 or 5 years for a septic installer. Is that possible?
That is on, so we don't do a high volume here, but I have a machine that's 3 years old and we're roughly around 1,000 hour mark.
Okay, all right, that makes sense.
So that's kind of where
So if we've got that 5 years to replace equipment, when we look on average, Stacy, at how many installs a typical septic installer does in North Carolina, I think a lot of us would be surprised to realize that the average are really only around 50 to 100 systems a year. Does that seem reasonable?
I'd say that's a fair number. I've talked to people all over, and you have some guys that are set up with multiple crews that do a lot more, but for most organizations that are 1 or 2 install crews, I would say that's a realistic number given weather and everything.
Wilson, that gives us a challenge, because if I've got to buy a new piece of equipment, I've got to pay for it, and I got to buy one every 5 years, and I've got only 50 jobs a year or 250 jobs over 5 years, I got to think about how big that purchase is going to be. So, Stacy, the piece of equipment that you have outside here that you bought when? When did you buy that one?
2020, we bought the 306, and it was roughly 85,000 for the base model.
Okay.
And that same machine 3 years later is going to be roughly just a little north of 100,000.
So Wilson, I can't say that because it was 100,000 today, when I walk in the dealership 5 years from now, it's not going to be 100,000, is it?
No way.
We're going to be in that 125, maybe a little bit more than that range. So I've got, Stacy, 250 jobs that on each one of those jobs, I've got to put enough to be able to buy $125,000 or $130,000 piece of equipment. Is that possible?
Yes.
All right. So that leads us into another discussion here. And that discussion is, Stacy, how do I budget that? How do I handle allocating a certain amount of money to make sure that I'm covering the cost of my equipment? Because it's a maintenance cost. It is just the basic operating cost on it. How do you do that?
So I think most guys, the problem with most guys is they feel like I own the equipment, so I don't charge a price for it.
All right.
But here, I mean, we have to replace the equipment or maintain it, and we replace equipment to offset the maintenance costs increasing. So every 5 years, we're going to look at getting rid of a piece of equipment and getting something newer. So I've just put like a daily rental in my bid outside of all my other costs. That machine is costing somebody from somewhere. So I look at it like if I don't own a machine and I have to call and get a rental, you've got rental fees and delivery fees. And so you need to incorporate that into your projects, and especially with your larger machines that you don't own or don't desire to own, we definitely need to find out that daily rental plus the hauling, because the hauling fee was not significant, but now to and from a job site can be as much as $1,000.
So Wilson, rental rates, if I'm thinking about equipment relevant for our industry, if I'm talking about $100,000 base model piece of equipment, what would rental rate on a piece of equipment like that run?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you're looking $500 a day. Let's just say on Stacy's 306. So, that's just the equipment, and that's assuming he could come pick it up. So then you've got delivery
Maybe
on
even
top
delivery,
of that.
and then there's a skid steer and a piece of equipment. And that, if we're going to run sustainable businesses, and we're going to be around long term, that has to be allocated in every job, right? So for 2 pieces of equipment, that's approaching $1,000 plus delivery that has to be put on each job. And that's not considered just profit, right? That's just to maintain.
Yeah, because most guys make the mistake that, again, they have the mindset that I own the equipment, so I don't charge for it. But again, if you're not charging that customer for it, what you're doing is, most guys say, I made $1,000. They say that number, and then they take out their salary, their overhead, and so they're buying those machines with the money they earn.
Right.
So the company is not sustaining the cost of the machine, their salary did. So if you had a public job and you made $100,000 a year, but at the end of the year, I told you that we need $100,000 for a new machine, you didn't make anything.
I made nothing.
You made nothing.
Yeah. So I was just a worker for a larger corporation. So,
Correct.
Good stuff. Great stuff. Question now, I want to understand the purchase versus lease decision. And so these are big investments, right? And there's some tax strategy in here. You guys deal with this more than I do, but I need to understand, is it in my interest to buy the machine outright? Or should I consider a lease? How do you handle that decision?
So most of the time, I start with a conversation with Wilson for price on the equipment outright versus, hey, what if we rent this machine long term? Or they also have lease programs.
Correct.
And the advantages, a lot of times when you're buying multiple pieces of equipment that are anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000, it became advantageous to us to do a leasing program, because the liability we bear on paper is the monthly payment. It's not $300,000 for this machine and $200,000 for this machine.
Okay.
On the books.
So I can buy more pieces or lease more pieces of equipment, and we can expand further than if I go outright and purchase.
It ties up your
borrowing, so your debt to income ratio gets out of whack.
So, Wilson, when people hear lease, there's a little bit of a fear because they think that I'm only going to be able to put 300 hours a year on it, and I'm going to have to wax it every day and maintenance. So how does that work?
Sure. So Caterpillar Financial has a great leasing program, and how that works is it's a minimum 2-year lease, 24-month lease through Caterpillar Financial, and then a minimum of 500 hours a year, but it'll go in 500-hour increments.
Okay.
So 500,000, 1,500.
So you could buy a lease for the expected number of hours you put in equipment
to
on.
fit your company. So, and then up front, there's an agreed upon, it's on paper down to the cent purchase option at the end of that lease.
Okay.
And a customer like Stacy's got the option. He can either purchase that piece, he can turn it in, walk away from it, no sweat, or turn it in, walk away from it, and roll right into another machine, the exact same thing. And a lot of people like the leasing program because they'll match the warranty with the lease term, the hours and everything. So they've always got a machine under warranty. That's been really popular, but again, between the customer and their accountant, they got to make sure that how it's operating, how that machine's being carried on their books makes sense for them.
Sure. Now, the lease, Stacy, you said that your decision, you will likely buy the equipment outright at the end of the lease that's coming up, and then you'll sell that because that's to your advantage right now.
So with the current market on equipment, and this changes, you definitely need to follow the marketplace and the equipment prices. But for the last few pieces of equipment that we bought, it worked best for us to do a lease. It extended our borrowing power, but at the end of the lease, we purchased it and turned around and sold the machine because we had equity in the machine, and we actually made a profit on the machine because machine availability has been a problem for a while. And as that fluctuates, you just need to follow the trend and see what works best.
But you have customers that do both, right? Buy, lease.
Correct.
And if they want to buy, you have financing programs.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's financing programs through Caterpillar Financial. Most customers have a relationship with their own bank, but we do have an option at the dealer and through Caterpillar Financial out of Nashville, Tennessee, that various 48-month, 60-month programs with some very competitive interest rates. So, at the date, it's pretty low. It fluctuates, but they're very competitive to give people a good option there.
Very good. All right. How about we talk about maintenance costs? And so maintenance programs and maintenance costs on these things. And so there's required maintenance on it, right? You've got some basic things that you're going to have to do as the owner of a piece of equipment. How do you handle that, Stacy, in your business, managing up those required maintenance activities and paying for them?
So for us, Caterpillar has a good maintenance program where they actually, on the purchase of the machines, some is included. You can upgrade to different maintenance programs, but we're in the business of installing septic tanks. So I don't have time to maintain and track everything that needs to be done to machines. So Caterpillar actually tracks the machines and knows the 250 hour, the 500 hour, the 1,000 hour, what needs to be done. And you can buy those in prepackaged plans that for X amount of dollars, either they send you the filter package and you can do it yourself, or they actually send a service tech to your job site.
Wow.
And that, if you look at what you spend in a downtime day carrying the machine to them versus them coming to your shop on a rainy day and doing that PM, it makes better sense for us to let them handle the machine and the maintenance.
All right, very good. Stacy, let me ask you this. You've upgraded your equipment over time, right? And you've added things and probably taken things off of what you really like. At the point you are in your business right now, what are some features of the equipment that you say, I would not go into the field without this? It's such a time saver, or it makes me more efficient. What is that feature that you would not do without?
I think on the excavator for us, it would definitely be the rototilt or some sort of articulating wrist for the bucket. I've rented machines without it. And once you get used to the maneuvering and what it will do for you and how easy it makes your job, I think that's the one thing out of everything that I definitely would not buy a machine without today.
So, and if for the folks out there that don't know, when you're digging on a sloping site, we need that trench bottom to still be level. And without outriggers on the old school backhoes, we don't have that on excavators anymore. You got to get level, and we're either going blade down or you're padding the track up. And you said you're working in people's backyards, existing landscaping. You want to have as minimal impact as possible, right?
Yeah, and ramping up, I did ramping up for a little while, and I wasn't very good at it. We were either too much ramp or not enough ramp. So with the guys in the grade rod, we always tell those to check side to side. So you can blade up sideways, but when you reposition the machine, you're either too far out of your reach or you're not quite far enough. Okay,
slow, right?
You're getting a bucket and a half, so it's slow. So being able just to twist the wrist of that machine and level, because if you get used to a steady contour is one thing, but if you've got a changing contour where at 10 feet you're off to the left and then 20 feet you're off the other way.
Sure, you have steeper parts of the drain field than others. So that's a big saver in time, makes it more efficient. Very good. Okay. In the future, let's project out a few years. What technology are you most excited about adding to your machine in the future?
So Caterpillar, we've done some demos on a newer machine that we're looking at, and I think, so we've used 3D GPS for a while, but it's Indicate.
Okay.
The technology's there on the larger machines, but it's been more expensive in the past, so it hadn't trickled down to the septic installer budget. But the new machine that we demoed, it has basically a 2D assist.
Okay.
So you set your bucket on the ground, and you can make it 3D as well. But the assist part, so it's no longer just to indicate. So when we're digging a hole 10, 12 foot deep, my line of vision is out maybe 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet.
You're blind on this close edge
so
of the tank hole.
I see my boots and the windshield, but we can't see the bottom of that hole. So, and we don't want to put men down in the hole. So with the assist, we can touch the bucket on the ground, tell it we want a 12-foot trench bottom or tank excavation, and then we can just pull on the levers to the max, and the machine is going to, the bucket is going to position itself, and it's not going to exceed the cut that we punched into the machine.
So you're basically setting limits, and it will not overdig.
Correct.
That's awesome.
And that, I've dug it both ways, and that is just a lot less stressful. And at the end of the day, you're just not quite as exhausted on it, but you can't make that mistake of, you got a nice rectangle hole and level, and then the last scoop, you just went 6 inches too deep, your crew's fussing at you. So it definitely that's technology that I'm definitely gonna welcome.
Very good. Awesome. All right. Stacy, you've over the years added pieces of equipment to your lineup, right? You've increased, you said you started about a 9,000 pound excavator. You've stepped up to a 15,000 pound now. What are you thinking about adding in the future equipment wise, and why?
So some of our larger projects, we need a machine to dig the holes for a 3,000, 4,000, 6,000 gallon tank. It's exceeding the limits of our 306. So we've looked at some other machines. For us, I need to stay under needing a low boy.
Okay.
I don't need a low boy to haul. So we're looking around the 313 size machine. So 30,000 pound machine is probably where we're gonna move to next.
That's mainly a reach issue. You can reach from one spot, those deeper and bigger holes.
Yeah, so when you're digging consecutive holes end to end, a lot of machines, let's say a machine tells you it'll dig 19 feet. Okay, so realistically, we're gonna dig 12 feet. When we move, if that hole is running in or caves in, then we can't get back to that hole. So we've lost that hole. So we either have to dig one tank, set the tank in, and then reposition. So then you're holding up the crane and everybody involved. So with the longer reach machines, it just gives us the ability to reach out further if we were to lose that excavation. We don't have to go around to the side and just redig the entire hole.
Very good. Wilson, in the future, I mean, is it unreasonable to think that septic size machines, our 10, 12,000 pound, 13,000 pound equipment, will have technology integrated, some of this intelligent dig technology in the future?
It's coming, and it's coming in a hurry. There's more demand for it. Sure. Obviously,
other industries are already adopting it, right?
Sure, and there's been options for years through SciTech and TopCon, or Trimble, but they basically putting hockey pucks down the stick in the boom and down near the bucket, but now built into the machine.
Come a long way.
Yeah, when septic and concrete and everything, there's just a higher demand for this. So it's coming, and Caterpillar's knee deep in it right now. So I fully expect that to be within the next year or two very prevalent.
Neat thing. Stacy, look out in the future 10 years. You're hiring a new employee. Do you see a day where you'll have machine control or more, not autonomous, but a lot more technology in that cab that could allow a less skilled and seasoned operator to help you on a job?
Yeah, and the younger generation too, they are interested in technology. So if you can make it more interesting for the younger generation, they're more apt to seek a career in that. But like you said too, it eliminates the need for multiple people. If one guy can sit in the machine and do the excavation while the other guy's doing a different task, it's going to speed up the process for sure.
Neat, really neat. Well, guys, thanks for talking to us today. Neat conversation. I think it's a conversation that people in our industry need to hear. So think about your equipment costs. You're going to have to replace it, even if it's a cat, right?
Yeah.
And
somebody's paying the bill.
Somebody's paying for it. Good stuff. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.